I'm so glad you found your way here. Your brain is repairing itself right now, clearing toxins, consolidating memories, preparing for tomorrow while you simply exist. Tonight you'll discover what happens when sleep disappears. And by the end, you'll understand why rest is the most powerful medicine your mind possesses. Welcome to Sleepy Science Facts. Now settle in. You're in your safe space while your brain quietly works. Neurons firing softly, clearing the debris of the day, preparing for what comes next. Allow yourself this moment of peace. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about what happens when sleep stops. From the first hour of wakefulness, where adenosine begins building, to the cascade of cognitive collapse, to the moment your brain finally surrenders to rest. This thoughtful journey through consciousness builds bridges between searching minds. A gentle like, subscribe or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more sleepless souls to discover and brings us closer to protect this sanctuary. One sleepy soul at a time. Your healing journey inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into peaceful fog of approaching sleep, safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where thoughts rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Sleep is not rest. This might seem strange, but scientists now understand that sleep is one of the most active states your brain ever experiences. During sleep, your brain consumes nearly as much energy as it does when you're awake and thinking hard. What is it doing with all that power? According to research from the National Institutes of Health, your sleeping brain is conducting a symphony of essential maintenance tasks. It's strengthening the neural connections that form memories, while weakening the ones you don't need. It's clearing away toxic proteins that accumulated during the day. It's reorganizing information, solving problems, preparing your mind for tomorrow. Without sleep, none of this happens. Your brain keeps running on yesterday's fuel, yesterday's organization, yesterday's incomplete repairs. Understanding what sleep does helps us grasp what happens when it disappears. Every mammal sleeps. Every bird sleeps. Even insects and fish have sleep-like states. This universal need suggests something profound. Sleep evolved hundreds of millions of years ago and remained essential despite the vulnerability it creates. Think about that. Animals in the wild, surrounded by predators, still surrender to unconsciousness every single day. Evolution would have eliminated sleep if it weren't absolutely critical. Recent comparative neuroscience research shows that across species, sleep serves similar functions: memory consolidation, metabolic restoration, immune system strengthening. Your brain shares these ancient requirements with dolphins, bats, and beetles. When you skip sleep, you're fighting against hundreds of millions of years of biological necessity. Your body doesn't have a backup plan, because for all of evolutionary history, sleep was non-negotiable. Your modern lifestyle may suggest otherwise, but your ancient brain knows the truth. Your brain has a cleaning system that works almost exclusively during sleep. Discovered in 2012 and studied intensively since. The glymphatic system functions like a waste disposal network. During waking hours, your brain cells are tightly packed together, focused on thinking, reacting, processing information. But during deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink slightly, creating spaces between them. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through these spaces, washing away metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day. One of these waste products is beta amyloid, a protein that forms the plaques found in Alzheimer's disease. Research from the University of Rochester and others has shown that the glymphatic system becomes significantly more active during deep sleep, several times more efficient than during waking hours. Without sleep, your brain's garbage disposal system slows dramatically. The waste builds up, and over time, the consequences become serious. Memory doesn't form during the experience itself. It forms during sleep afterward. When you learn something new, whether it's a fact, a shill, or an experience, your brain creates a temporary, fragile version of that memory. During sleep, particularly during the deep, slow-wave stages, your brain replays these experiences, strengthening the neural connections that encode them. Studies using brain imaging show that the same neurons that fired during learning fire again during sleep, but in a coordinated pattern that solidifies the memory. If you learn something and then don't sleep, up to 40% of that information will be lost. Your brain essentially decides it wasn't important enough to keep. Students who study all night before exams often perform worse than those who study less but sleep well. The learning happens during waking, but the remembering requires sleep. Your emotional resilience depends on sleep. Research from UC Berkeley demonstrated that even a single night of sleep deprivation significantly reduces the brain's ability to regulate emotions. The amygdala becomes over 30% more reactive to negative stimuli, while the prefrontal cortex shows decreased connectivity. This combination creates a perfect storm. You feel emotions more intensely, but have less ability to manage them rationally. Small setbacks feel catastrophic. Minor criticisms cut deeply. You might snap at people you care about, cry at commercials, or feel waves of anxiety for no clear reason. These aren't character flaws. They're neurological consequences of exhaustion. Your amygdala processes emotional information more intensely, while the prefrontal regions that normally provide perspective lack the resources to do so effectively. You're not choosing to feel worse. Your exhausted brain is simply losing its ability to maintain emotional equilibrium. Sleep regulates your body's internal clock, called the circadian rhythm. This 24-hour cycle influences nearly every system in your body. When you feel hungry, when your body temperature rises and falls, when certain hormones release, when you feel alert or drowsy, the master clock sits in a tiny region of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, responding primarily to light. But sleep itself provides powerful feedback that keeps this clock synchronized. When you stay up all night, you disrupt this ancient timing system. Your body doesn't know whether it should be releasing cortisol to wake you up or melatonin to make you sleepy. Hunger hormones fire at odd times. Your temperature regulation goes haywire. You might feel simultaneously exhausted and unable to fall asleep, hungry but nauseated, cold despite a warm room. Your body's orchestra has lost its conductor. During REM sleep, your brain practices emotional problem-solving. Dreams, particularly the vivid, story-like dreams of REM periods. Allow your brain to process difficult emotions in a safe environment. According to research from Harvard Medical School, the brain during REM sleep shows activity patterns similar to therapy sessions, working through conflicts, rehearsing social situations, processing fears. But unlike waking thoughts, dreams occur in a neurochemical state where stress hormones are suppressed. This allows you to engage with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. People who get adequate REM sleep show better emotional regulation and resilience. Those deprived of REM sleep, even if they get other sleep stages, struggle more with anxiety, irritability, and emotional reactivity. Your dreams aren't random noise. They're your brain's therapy session, working through what waking consciousness couldn't resolve. Sleep strengthens your immune system in measurable ways. When you sleep, your body produces cytokines, proteins that target infection and inflammation. Some of these cytokines also promote sleep, creating a positive feedback loop. Being sick makes you sleepy, and being sleepy helps you fight sickness. Studies show that people who sleep less than 7 hours per night are 3 times more likely to catch a cold when exposed to the virus, compared to those who sleep 8 hours or more. After just 1 night of poor sleep, the number and effectiveness of natural killer cells, which attack viruses and tumors, drops by up to 70%. Your immune system doesn't just benefit from sleep, it requires sleep to function. Without it, your body becomes vulnerable. Your brain consolidates procedural memories during specific sleep stages. Procedural memory refers to skills: how to ride a bike, play an instrument, type without looking. These memories form differently than factual memories. During stage 2, sleep, brain activity shows distinctive patterns called sleep spindles, brief bursts of neural firing that seem to transfer skill memories from temporary to permanent storage. Musicians who practice a new piece and then sleep show significant improvement the next day, even without additional practice. Athletes perform better after good sleep. Your fingers remember the keyboard. Your muscles remember the dance steps. Your coordination improves, not because you practiced more, but because your sleeping brain integrated the practice you already did. Skill doesn't come from repetition alone. It comes from repetition plus sleep. Sleep deprivation affects different brain regions differently. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for complex thinking, planning, and self-control, is particularly vulnerable. After just 24 hours without sleep, prefrontal function declines dramatically. Meanwhile, more primitive regions, those governing basic survival, emotional reactions, and reward-seeking, remain relatively functional. This creates a dangerous imbalance. Your ability to make good decisions drops, but your impulsivity remains high. You're more likely to take risks, say things you'll regret, eat unhealthy foods, or make poor financial choices. Your higher reasoning can't override your base impulses effectively. This explains why exhausted people often do things they know are unwise. The wise part of their brain is offline, while the impulsive part is still running. Microsleeps begin after about 17 hours of wakefulness. These are brief periods, lasting from a fraction of a second to 30 seconds, where your brain essentially forces itself to sleep despite your efforts to stay awake. You might not even notice them consciously. Your eyes might stay open, but your brain activity shifts into a sleep-like state. During microsleeps, you're functionally unconscious, unable to process information, react to stimuli, or make decisions. If you're driving, this is catastrophic. Research shows that drowsy driving causes more accidents than drunk driving in many regions. Your brain doesn't ask permission to shut down. When it needs sleep desperately enough, it simply takes it, regardless of what you're doing at the time. Sleep helps regulate blood sugar. During deep sleep, your body's sensitivity to insulin improves, allowing cells to absorb glucose more efficiently. When you don't sleep well, this process breaks down. Studies show that even a single night of insufficient sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity by 20 to 30%, similar to early metabolic changes seen in prediabetes. Your cells respond less effectively to insulin signals, causing blood sugar to rise. Over time, chronic sleep deprivation significantly increases the risk of developing diabetes. Your pancreas can produce insulin, but if you're not sleeping, your cells don't respond to it properly. Blood sugar rises, inflammation increases, and metabolic health deteriorates. Sleep isn't just rest, it's metabolic regulation. Your brain practices creativity during sleep. The relaxed, associative thinking that occurs during certain sleep stages allows your brain to make connections it wouldn't make during focused waking thought. Many famous discoveries and artistic breakthroughs occurred after sleep. Dmitri Mendeleev dreamed of the periodic table's arrangement. Paul McCartney heard yesterday in a dream. Auguste Kekulé visualized the structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its tail. These aren't just anecdotes. Research confirms that sleep enhances insight and creative problem-solving. Your waking mind focuses, analyzes, and categorizes. Your sleeping mind wanders, connects, and discovers. Both are necessary for innovative thinking. Sleep repairs cellular damage throughout your body. During deep sleep stages, growth hormone releases, stimulating tissue repair and muscle growth. Protein synthesis increases. Damaged cells get replaced or repaired. This is why athletes need more sleep than sedentary people. Their bodies have more damage to fix. Even your skin repairs faster during sleep. Studies show that sleep-deprived people show visible signs of aging more quickly. More wrinkles, less skin elasticity, slower wound healing. Your body could theoretically perform these repairs while awake, but it doesn't. The demands of waking consciousness take priority. Only during sleep does your body shift focus from functioning to maintaining itself. During sleep, your brain undergoes synaptic homeostasis, a process of fine-tuning neural connections. Throughout the day, synapses strengthen with learning and experience, creating networks of associations and skills. During sleep, your brain selectively weakens less important connections while preserving crucial ones, maintaining overall balance. Without this nightly recalibration, your neural circuits become overexcited, making learning new information progressively harder. Think of it as pruning a garden, removing excess growth so the important plants can thrive. Sleep doesn't just preserve yesterday's learning. It makes space for tomorrow's. This process keeps your brain flexible, adaptable, and ready to learn throughout your entire life. Sleep patterns change throughout life in predictable ways. Newborns sleep 16 to 18 hours daily, mostly in REM sleep, as their brains develop rapidly. Teenagers need about 9 hours, but their circadian rhythms shift later, making early school start times problematic. Adults need 7 to 9 hours, with deep sleep duration decreasing gradually with age. Older adults often sleep more lightly and wake more frequently. These changes aren't arbitrary. They reflect changing brain needs. A teenager fighting sleep isn't lazy. Their biology genuinely keeps them awake later. An elderly person waking at dawn isn't choosing to. Their brain structure has changed. Your brain practices social skills during sleep. Research from the University of California shows that the brain regions involved in social cognition, empathy, and emotional interpretation remain active during certain sleep stages, processing social experiences from the day. If you had a difficult conversation, your sleeping brain might replay it, trying different responses, understanding different perspectives. People who sleep well show better social awareness and empathy. Those who don't sleep struggle to read facial expressions, interpret tone, and respond appropriately in social situations. Your social intelligence isn't fixed. It develops during sleep. Sleep regulates hunger hormones precisely. When you sleep well, your body produces appropriate levels of leptin, which signals fullness, and ghrelin, which signals hunger. After poor sleep, leptin drops and ghrelin rises. You feel hungrier and less satisfied by food. Studies show that sleep-deprived people consume about 300 more calories per day, typically from high-fat, high-sugar foods. This isn't lack of willpower. Your hormones are literally telling you to eat more. Over time, chronic sleep deprivation contributes significantly to weight gain and obesity through these hormonal changes. Your muscles fully relax only during certain sleep stages. During REM sleep, your brain actively paralyzes most voluntary muscles to prevent you from acting out dreams. This paralysis is so complete that people awakened during REM often feel briefly unable to move, an unsettling but harmless state called sleep paralysis. But this paralysis serves an important purpose, allowing your muscles to completely release tension. Without regular REM sleep, muscle tension accumulates. Chronic pain conditions often worsen with poor sleep, partly because muscles never fully release and recover. Sleep protects against neurodegenerative diseases. Research increasingly links chronic sleep deprivation with higher risks of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. The glymphatic system clearing beta amyloid during sleep appears crucial. Studies of older adults show that those with consistent, quality sleep have significantly lower rates of cognitive decline. While one bad night won't cause dementia, decades of inadequate sleep create conditions where toxic proteins accumulate faster than the brain can clear them. Protecting your sleep protects your long-term cognitive health. Your eyes need sleep to function properly. During sleep, your eyes are closed and protected, receiving oxygen from blood vessels rather than the air. The cornea can recover from daily stress, and tear production normalizes. Without adequate sleep, eyes become dry, irritated, and prone to infections. Vision can blur. Sensitivity to light increases. In extreme cases, Prolonged wakefulness can cause visual hallucinations as the visual cortex begins malfunctioning. Your eyes aren't just closed during sleep. They're actively restoring themselves. Sleep helps you forget as well as remember. Your brain can't store everything. So during sleep, it selectively weakens memories that seem unimportant while strengthening significant ones. This is actually crucial. If you remembered every trivial detail of every day, your mind would be cluttered with useless information. Sleep helps your brain decide what matters. People with certain sleep disorders who can't properly forget sometimes struggle with intrusive memories and difficulty focusing on new information. Forgetting isn't failure. It's essential mental hygiene. Your cardiovascular system recovers during sleep. Heart rate slows from around 70 beats per minute to 50 or below. Blood pressure drops, and blood vessels relax. This nightly rest period is essential for heart health. People who consistently sleep less than 6 hours per night have significantly higher risks of heart disease, stroke, and hypertension. Your heart beats roughly 100,000 times daily. It needs those quiet hours to recover. Without sufficient sleep, your cardiovascular system operates under constant stress, never getting the recovery time it requires. Sleep helps integrate conflicting information into coherent understanding. During the day, you encounter contradictory facts, competing perspectives, and complex situations. Your waking mind struggles with these contradictions. But during sleep, particularly during the transitions between stages, your brain seems to find ways to reconcile inconsistencies, create coherent narratives, and develop integrated understanding. You go to sleep confused and wake with clarity. This isn't magic. It's your sleeping brain solving problems your waking mind couldn't. So yes, sleep is already essential for dozens of critical functions. From cleaning waste to consolidating memories, from regulating emotions to strengthening immunity, from repairing cells to integrating knowledge. Sleep isn't one thing. It's a cascade of precisely timed biological processes that your body absolutely requires. Understanding what sleep normally does helps us understand what happens when it stops. And when sleep stops, everything we've discussed begins to fail. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside you, working quietly to keep you alive. Your brain right now is preparing for rest. Even as you listen, it's beginning to slow certain processes, to quiet certain regions, to ready itself for the restoration that comes with sleep. Notice the gentle sensations on your skin, in your muscles, along your spine. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow, the softness beneath you. You don't need to do anything. Your brain knows how to sleep. Your body knows how to heal. Trust that ancient wisdom now. We'll continue our journey, but your body can continue relaxing, releasing, preparing for the gift of rest that's coming. And gently, softly, we continue our journey together. The first changes begin within hours of staying awake past your normal bedtime. Adenosine, a neurochemical byproduct of brain activity, accumulates throughout the day. Normally, sleep clears this adenosine away, resetting your system. But when you stay awake, adenosine continues building up, creating increasing pressure to sleep. As levels rise, your attention begins to waver. Tasks that usually feel effortless require more concentration. You might read the same sentence twice without comprehending it. These early changes are subtle. Most people barely notice them at first. You feel tired. Yes, but you tell yourself you're functioning normally. Your brain knows differently. After staying awake for 16 to 18 hours, your cognitive performance begins declining measurably. Reaction times slow by about 10 to 15%. This might not sound significant, but consider the implications. If you're driving, those extra milliseconds could be the difference between stopping safely and a collision. Your working memory starts failing. You walk into rooms and forget why. You dial phone numbers and forget who you're calling mid-dial. Your brain's temporary storage systems can't clear space for new information. Everything begins backing up. Your mood shifts after just one night of poor sleep. Sleep research has consistently shown that even partial sleep deprivation, getting just 4 or 5 hours instead of 7 or 8, reduces positive emotions while amplifying negative ones. Your emotional range narrows, with the negative end becoming more intense. Small annoyances feel bigger. Minor disappointments sting more deeply. Things that would normally make you smile barely register. This isn't weakness or bad temperament. Your amygdala processes emotional information more intensely, while the prefrontal cortex can't provide perspective effectively. Perhaps most concerning, you likely don't realize how impaired you've become. Research on subjective versus objective sleepiness shows a dangerous gap. People who've been awake for 20 hours often rate themselves as only moderately tired, while objective tests show their performance has declined significantly. Your brain's ability to assess its own functioning requires the very resources that sleep deprivation depletes. You think you're fine, performing normally, making good decisions, but the data shows otherwise. This gap between perception and reality creates risk. After 24 hours without sleep, research shows your response times and decision-making resemble someone with a blood alcohol level of 0.08%. Your brain is working hard but struggling with tasks that normally feel simple. Judgment becomes impaired. Coordination suffers. Reaction times slow significantly. Yet unlike alcohol, which people recognize affects them, sleep deprivation's effects feel more insidious. You don't feel impaired in the same obvious way. You feel tired but functional. This impairment is measurable but temporary. Sleep restores these abilities completely. Your eyes struggle after missing one night of sleep. The muscles that control focus weaken, making reading difficult. Your pupils respond more slowly to light changes. Dry eyes become uncomfortable as tear production decreases. Some people experience visual disturbances, seeing shadows in peripheral vision, struggling with depth perception, or noticing that lights seem to have halos. These visual changes aren't permanent, but they're warnings that your visual system is stressed beyond its comfortable limits. Rest brings clarity back. Communication skills deteriorate notably. Finding the right word becomes harder. Your vocabulary seems to shrink. Sentences come out garbled or incomplete. You might lose track of what you were saying mid-sentence. Listening comprehension drops too. People seem to talk too fast, or their words blur together. These language problems stem from the prefrontal cortex struggling. Language is a complex cognitive task, requiring multiple brain regions working together smoothly. and sleep deprivation disrupts that coordination. Your sense of time becomes distorted. Minutes feel like hours. Hours pass in what feels like minutes. This temporal confusion happens because the brain regions that track time passage, particularly the cerebellum and frontal cortex, rely on consistent neural timing. When you're exhausted, neural firing becomes irregular. Time estimation requires counting these internal pulses. But when the pulses become erratic, your sense of duration fails. You genuinely cannot accurately judge how long things take. Physical coordination declines measurably. Your movements become slightly clumsier. You're more likely to bump into things, drop objects, or trip. Athletes show decreased performance in skills requiring precision timing. This happens because the cerebellum, which coordinates movement, communicates less effectively with other brain regions when you're sleep-deprived. The commands from your brain to your muscles arrive with slightly wrong timing or intensity, making smooth movement difficult. Your body temperature regulation becomes erratic. You might feel cold despite a warm room, or uncomfortably warm when it's cool. This happens because your hypothalamus, which regulates body temperature, relies on circadian signals that sleep deprivation disrupts. Your body doesn't know whether it should be warming up for activity or cooling down for rest. The result is uncomfortable temperature fluctuations that make you feel even worse. Appetite becomes unpredictable and often increases significantly. The hormonal signals for hunger and fullness get scrambled. You might feel ravenously hungry or completely without appetite within the same hour. Most commonly, people crave high-calorie, high-sugar foods. This isn't lack of willpower. It's your brain seeking quick energy to compensate for its exhausted state. The prefrontal cortex that normally regulates food choices is too tired to resist. Your immune system's surveillance weakens. White blood cell production slows, and inflammatory markers rise throughout your body. If you have a wound, healing slows measurably. Your body's ability to recognize and respond to threats, whether viruses, bacteria, or damaged cells, diminishes with each hour of lost sleep. The immune cells are present but exhausted, unable to mount effective responses. Every biological defense system begins lowering its guard. Pain sensitivity increases. The same stimulus that would normally cause minor discomfort feels more painful when you're exhausted. Research shows that sleep deprivation lowers pain thresholds and makes existing pain conditions worse. This happens partly because the brain regions that modulate pain perception, helping you ignore minor aches, become less active. Every sensation feels more intense, more bothersome, harder to tolerate. Memory formation for new information becomes severely impaired. After 24 hours without sleep, your hippocampus, critical for creating new memories, shows dramatically reduced activity. You can still access old memories relatively well, but creating new ones is profoundly difficult. Information you encounter simply doesn't stick. You'll have large gaps in memory for events that occurred during your sleep-deprived state. At this stage, your brain is sending increasingly desperate signals to sleep. You experience powerful waves of sleepiness, especially during the early morning hours when circadian drives are lowest. Fighting these waves becomes harder and harder. Yet some people push through, thinking they can handle another day. They don't yet realize how much worse things are about to become. You're still here with me. Thoughts still flickering like candlelight. Just notice. Don't judge. Just notice where your mind is right now. We're exploring consciousness itself, the very thing doing the exploring. Strange, beautiful, and perfectly calm. There's no rush. We're drifting through understanding together, learning why your brain needs what it needs. Let's continue softly. After 36 hours without sleep, cognitive impairment becomes severe. Complex thinking becomes nearly impossible. You can still perform very simple, routine tasks, but anything requiring attention, memory, or judgment fails badly. Studies show that people at this stage make errors at rates 10 times higher than well-rested individuals. They fail to notice their own mistakes. They repeat actions they just completed. They forget instructions immediately after hearing them. The prefrontal cortex, which handles executive functions, is essentially offline at this point. Emotional regulation collapses. Inappropriate emotional responses become common. Laughing at things that aren't funny. Crying without clear reason. Sudden anger over trivial matters. The connection between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, which normally keeps emotions in check, weakens dramatically. You're experiencing emotions in their raw, unmodulated form. Small frustrations can trigger disproportionate rage. Minor sadness can spiral into despair. Your brain has lost the circuits that provide emotional perspective and control. Hallucinations can begin appearing after about 48 hours without sleep, though timing varies by individual. These are typically mild at first. Shadows moving in peripheral vision. Hearing your name called when no one spoke. Feeling sensations on your skin that aren't there. These occur because exhausted sensory processing regions in your brain start generating signals spontaneously. You're not going crazy. Your brain is so tired that it's beginning to create perceptions without external input. Your sense of reality becomes uncertain. You might struggle to distinguish whether events actually happened or you imagined them. Memories from earlier that day blend with dreams you might have had. This confusion stems from the same regions being involved in both memory and imagination. When these regions are exhausted, the boundaries blur. You might argue about events that never occurred or forget things you definitely did. Reality itself becomes questionable. Speech becomes significantly impaired. You might slur words as if intoxicated. Sentences become fragmented and difficult to understand. You lose words mid-thought, forget what you were saying, or repeat yourself without realizing it. The language centers in your brain require substantial cognitive resources. When exhausted, they can't coordinate properly. Communication, which normally feels effortless, becomes laborious. Other people notice you're not making sense, even if you think you're speaking clearly. Motor control continues deteriorating. Simple movements require conscious effort and concentration. Walking becomes slightly unsteady. Fine motor skills like writing or typing become very difficult. Hand tremors may develop. This happens because the motor cortex and cerebellum need consistent input from other brain regions to coordinate movement properly. Sleep deprivation disrupts that coordination. Your brain knows what movement it wants to make, but the signal gets garbled on its way to muscles. Risk assessment becomes deeply flawed. The part of your brain that evaluates danger, weighs consequences, and makes prudent choices is barely functioning. You might take risks you'd never consider when well rested, crossing streets without looking carefully, making large financial decisions impulsively, or engaging in dangerous activities. You're not seeking thrills. You literally cannot properly assess risk. The neural circuits for caution and judgment have gone offline. Microsleeps increase in frequency and duration. You might experience dozens per hour, each lasting several seconds. During these brief episodes, you're essentially unconscious even though your eyes might be open. You're not processing information, responding to stimuli, or making decisions. If someone asks you a question during a microsleep, you won't hear it. Your brain is forcibly taking the sleep you're denying it. In stolen moments you can't control. Your body's stress response remains constantly activated. Cortisol levels stay elevated far longer than healthy. This chronic stress state affects every system. Cardiovascular strain increases. Digestion becomes erratic. Muscles remain tense. You feel jittery and exhausted simultaneously. Your body is trying to keep you functioning through sheer stress hormones. But this solution cannot be sustained. Its emergency measures becoming chronic, damaging in their own right. At approximately the halfway point of our journey, a truth emerges clearly. The brain cannot function indefinitely without sleep. Every hour of wakefulness creates deficits that accumulate and compound. You're not building tolerance to sleeplessness. You're experiencing progressive system failure. The question isn't whether you'll sleep eventually. The question is whether you'll choose to sleep voluntarily or your brain will force it upon you involuntarily. We've reached the middle of our quiet journey together. Let's pause and take a deep breath. Notice how your body feels right now. Perhaps heavier than before. Perhaps more relaxed. Your brain has been listening to these facts about sleep, learning about its own needs, understanding its own requirements. And perhaps, in that understanding, there's permission forming. Permission to rest. Permission to stop fighting. Permission to surrender to what your body has always known it needs. Time is yours. This moment is unique. You don't need to carry all this information forward. You don't need to remember every fact. What matters is the gentle truth settling in your awareness. Your brain needs sleep, and that's perfectly okay. Let that truth be simple. Let it be soft. We'll continue drifting now, but you can let go of any remaining tension, any remaining resistance. Sleep will come when it comes, and when it does, your brain will know exactly what to do, and we continue the journey. After 72 hours without sleep, you've entered territory that most people never experience. At this point, distinguishing you from someone with a serious neurological condition becomes difficult. Your symptoms, confusion, hallucinations, impaired movement, emotional instability, memory failure, mirror those of certain brain injuries or illnesses. The difference is these effects are reversible. Sleep will restore you. But in this moment, your brain is experiencing real stress that recovery will take time to repair. Paranoia and delusional thinking can develop. You might believe people are talking about you, that ordinary events have special meanings, or that you're being followed. These aren't personality flaws. They're neurological symptoms of extreme exhaustion. The brain regions that normally reality test your thoughts and keep them grounded can't perform this function effectively. Thoughts that would normally be dismissed as silly suddenly seem plausible. even certain. Trust in your own perceptions erodes. Your immune system at this stage is profoundly compromised. Research shows that after 3 days without sleep, your body's ability to fight infection drops to levels seen in certain immunodeficiency conditions. Wounds heal more slowly. Inflammation increases throughout the body. You're vulnerable to illness in ways that normally wouldn't threaten you. Your immune cells are present but exhausted, unable to mount effective responses. Every biological defense system is weakening. Temperature regulation becomes severely impaired. You might shiver despite warm environments or sweat in cool rooms. Your body has lost the ability to properly sense and respond to temperature. This happens because the hypothalamus, which normally maintains homeostasis, is failing. Simple tasks like staying warm or cool become challenging. You might layer on clothing and blankets or strip them off repeatedly, unable to find comfort. Complex visual hallucinations often intensify. You might see entire scenes that aren't there, people who don't exist, animals moving in the room, elaborate patterns on walls. These visions can seem completely real. Unlike earlier peripheral hallucinations, these are detailed and central to your vision. You might interact with hallucinations, speak to people who aren't present, or react to events that aren't happening. Reality and imagination have blurred beyond distinction. Your sense of self begins fragmenting. You might feel disconnected from your own body, observing yourself from outside, or feel like you're a different person. This depersonalization stems from exhausted brain regions that normally maintain your sense of continuous identity. The narrative voice in your head might change. Your reflection might seem unfamiliar. The fundamental experience of being you becomes strange and unsettling. Decision-making becomes essentially impossible. Even simple choices, what to eat, whether to sit or stand, feel overwhelming. You might stand paralyzed, unable to choose between obvious options. This happens because decision-making requires weighing alternatives, predicting outcomes, and selecting actions. All these processes depend on prefrontal regions that have ceased functioning effectively. You can perceive options but cannot process them into decisions. Memory formation is almost completely blocked. Events happening right now simply won't be remembered later. Your hippocampus cannot encode new experiences into lasting memories. People might tell you important information that vanishes moments later. You'll have large blank periods in your memory, hours where you were awake and active but have no recollection. Your brain is recording nothing from this experience. Physical appearance changes noticeably. Your skin becomes pale or grayish. Dark circles under eyes deepen. Facial expression becomes flat or strained. You might look years older than you are. These changes reflect real physiological stress. Poor circulation, reduced cell regeneration, dehydration, stress hormone effects. Other people can see at a glance that something is wrong, even if you think you're hiding it. Coordination deteriorates to dangerous levels. You might stumble or fall doing simple activities, reaching for objects. You misjudge distances. Typing or writing becomes nearly impossible. The cerebellum and motor cortex cannot work together properly. Every movement requires conscious effort and still often fails. Activities you've done thousands of times, walking, drinking from a cup, opening doors, require intense concentration and still might go wrong. Your brain enters a state researchers call local sleep. Some brain regions essentially fall asleep, while others struggle to stay awake. Brain imaging shows patches of sleep-like activity moving across the cortex even while you appear conscious. Parts of your brain are sleeping without your permission or awareness. This creates the bizarre symptoms people experience, functioning in some ways while completely failing in others. Emotional responses become completely dysregulated. You might laugh uncontrollably at tragedy or remain emotionless during normally moving events. Tears might flow for no reason or be impossible when you want to cry. The neural circuits connecting emotional stimuli to appropriate responses have broken down. Your emotions aren't matching reality because the systems that create emotional coherence have failed. At this extreme stage, some people experience something researchers describe as sleep deprivation psychosis, a temporary state resembling certain mental health conditions. They might hear voices, develop elaborate false beliefs, or lose insight that anything is wrong. This condition is temporary and sleep reversible, but in the moment, the symptoms can be frightening and deeply confusing. At this stage, oxidative stress increases and inflammation affects neural tissue. Some cells in specific brain regions may be lost temporarily. But here's the gentle truth. With adequate sleep, your brain begins repairing these effects. The changes aren't permanent. Your brain's capacity for healing is remarkable, given the chance to rest and restore itself. We now understand clearly that sleep isn't optional. It's as fundamental as breathing. Your brain evolved to require sleep cycles. There's no override, no adaptation possible. The longer you stay awake, the more systems fail. The brain cannot run continuously. It requires periodic offline maintenance. Fighting this requirement is fighting biology itself. Studies with animals show that complete sleep prevention leads to system-wide failure within weeks. This research reminds us how fundamental sleep is, not optional, but essential for life itself. Fortunately, your brain protects you by forcing rest long before reaching dangerous thresholds. Sleep is a need your body will always eventually meet. The concept of catching up on sleep is partly true and partly myth. One good night will restore some functions. Cognitive performance improves. Mood stabilizes. Immune function begins recovering. But other effects, particularly the inflammatory changes and metabolic shifts, take longer to reverse. Deep recovery requires consistent sleep over time, not one marathon session. Individual variation in sleep needs exists, but is smaller than people think. Research suggests about 5% of the population functions well on 6 hours, while others need 9. But almost everyone needs at least 7 hours for optimal functioning. People claiming they need only 4 or 5 hours typically show objective impairments they don't recognize. Your brain has sleep debt that accumulates over time. Missing an hour of sleep creates a deficit your brain tracks. Chronic partial sleep deprivation, getting 6 hours when you need 8, creates debt that builds night after night. This debt impairs functioning even if you feel you've adapted. You haven't adapted. You've adjusted your baseline expectations downward. Modern technology enables sleep deprivation in ways historically impossible. Artificial light disrupts circadian rhythms. Stimulating content keeps minds active late. Work demands ignore biological needs. Our culture treats sleep as luxury rather than necessity. But your ancient brain hasn't evolved to handle these modern challenges. It still requires darkness and rest. The effects of sleep deprivation compound with other stressors. If you're sleep deprived and then encounter stress, your response will be worse than if you faced the same stress while well rested. Sleep provides resilience. Without it, you're fragile, vulnerable, unable to cope with challenges that wouldn't normally overwhelm you. Recognizing your own sleep deprivation is difficult. Most people substantially underestimate their impairment. You feel somewhat tired, but tests show you're severely impaired. This gap between subjective feeling and objective reality makes sleep deprivation dangerous. You trust your self-assessment, but your self-assessment is compromised by the very deprivation you're trying to evaluate. Recovery isn't immediate even when you finally sleep. After extreme sleep deprivation, you might sleep 12 to 16 hours initially, but even after waking, you'll feel groggy, mentally slow, and emotionally fragile for days. Full recovery requires multiple nights of good sleep. Your brain must rebuild what was depleted. Recent research continues, revealing new ways sleep deprivation affects gene expression and cellular health. Hundreds of genes involved in immune function, metabolism, and stress response change their activity levels after just one night of poor sleep. We're constantly learning that sleep is more critical than previously understood, not less. The final truth is simple. Your brain has taught us that sleep is not negotiable. Every system we've explored, memory, emotion, immunity, judgment, perception, coordination, requires sleep. Without it, they fail in predictable, measurable ways. Sleep isn't weakness. It's biological necessity, and that's worth honoring. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly okay. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your body's natural rhythm. Breathing in, breathing out. Heart beating steadily. Blood flowing through you in endless circulation. Everything in nature follows cycles. Day and night. Seasons rotating. Tides rising and falling. Your body follows cycles too. Waking and sleeping. Activity and rest. Exertion and recovery. These cycles aren't weakness. They're wisdom. Billions of years of evolution teaching your cells when to work and when to restore. You don't need to fight these cycles. You can trust them instead. Your brain knows what it needs. Your body knows how to heal. All you need to do is allow it. Permission. Surrender. Trust. Let the natural rhythm carry you now. Like a leaf floating on a stream. You don't need to struggle. The current knows where it's going. We're almost finished now, drifting toward the end together. Let's journey now toward gentler truths, toward what sleep actually offers. When you finally do sleep after deprivation, your brain rushes into deep sleep stages immediately. The normal sleep architecture changes. More time in slow wave sleep, more intensive REM periods. Your brain is taking what it desperately needs. This recovery sleep is some of the most powerful, restorative sleep you'll ever experience. Your brain knows exactly what to prioritize, what to repair first, how to rebuild what was damaged. The moment you fall asleep, your glymphatic system activates fully. All that accumulated metabolic waste, the toxins, the cellular debris, the protein fragments, begins washing away. Within the first hours of sleep, your brain starts clearing what built up during wakefulness. It's like a city's sanitation system finally running after days of garbage accumulating. Your brain cleanses itself, creating space for clarity to return. This cleaning happens naturally, automatically, requiring nothing from you but sleep itself. Memory consolidation begins immediately during recovery sleep. Your hippocampus starts processing the backlog of experiences, deciding what to keep, integrating them with existing knowledge. Dreams might be especially vivid and strange as your brain works overtime to organize everything it couldn't handle while you were awake. These intense dreams aren't random. They're your brain desperately trying to make sense of accumulated experience, filing away what matters, releasing what doesn't. Your immune system begins recovering within the first sleep cycle. Cytokine production increases. Natural killer cells multiply and reactivate. Inflammation starts decreasing throughout your body. Your immune system, which was barely functioning, springs back to life with remarkable speed. This is why sleep is the best medicine for illness. It allows your body's natural defenses to function at full capacity. Healing accelerates when you rest. Emotional regulation starts restoring after even one good night's sleep. The connection between your amygdala and prefrontal cortex strengthens. Emotional responses become more appropriate again. Things that seemed overwhelming yesterday feel manageable this morning. Your brain has recalibrated its emotional systems, processed lingering feelings, and restored the circuits that provide perspective and control. You feel more like yourself because your brain is functioning like itself again. Cognitive functions return progressively. After the first night, basic attention and processing speed improve. After several nights, complex problem-solving and creativity restore. After a week of good sleep, you approach your normal baseline. The brain doesn't heal all at once. It prioritizes, restoring critical functions first, then gradually rebuilding more sophisticated capabilities. Patience with recovery is important. Your brain needs time. Perhaps what's most remarkable is how forgiving your brain is. Even after severe sleep deprivation, most effects are completely reversible. With adequate recovery sleep, your brain doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't punish you. Given the sleep it needs, it repairs, rebuilds, and restores. This resilience is extraordinary. Proof that your brain wants to heal, wants to function well, wants to support you. Understanding what sleep deprivation does can help you value sleep differently. Sleep isn't laziness or wasted time. It's essential maintenance, as critical as eating or breathing. Every hour of quality sleep is an hour invested in your cognitive health, emotional stability, physical well-being, and long-term brain function. Prioritizing sleep isn't selfish. It's self-care in its most fundamental form. Many cultures throughout history understood sleep's importance better than modern society does. Indigenous traditions often incorporated daytime rest periods. Mediterranean cultures traditionally practiced siestas. These weren't signs of laziness. They were wisdom. They recognized that human brains need rest periods, that productivity without rest is unsustainable. We might benefit from relearning these lessons our ancestors understood. The pressure to sacrifice sleep for productivity is ultimately self-defeating. Research clearly shows that well-rested people accomplish more, make better decisions, create more innovative solutions, and maintain higher quality work than sleep-deprived people working longer hours. An hour of sleep-deprived work often needs to be redone. Sleep isn't opposing productivity, it's enabling it. Your brain sends you signals when it needs sleep. Yawning, heavy eyelids, difficulty concentrating, irritability. These aren't suggestions. They're urgent messages from a system in distress. Learning to listen to these signals, to honor them rather than override them, is a form of wisdom. Your brain knows what it needs better than any schedule or deadline. Creating conditions for good sleep is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health. A cool, dark room, consistent sleep schedule, limited screen time before bed. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They work with your biology rather than against it. Your brain desperately wants to sleep well. It just needs you to create the conditions. Some people struggle with sleep despite doing everything right. Insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome. These are real medical conditions requiring professional help. If you want to sleep but can't, you're not failing. You might need medical support. Seeking help for sleep problems isn't weakness. It's recognizing that your brain deserves proper care. The relationship between mental health and sleep is bidirectional. Poor sleep worsens depression, anxiety, and other conditions. But these conditions also disrupt sleep. Breaking this cycle often requires addressing both simultaneously. Better sleep improves mental health. Better mental health improves sleep. They support each other in healing. Dreams, those strange narratives your sleeping brain creates, serve purposes we're still discovering. They process emotions, consolidate memories, explore possibilities, solve problems creatively. Your dreams aren't meaningless noise. They're your brain working in a different mode, one that waking consciousness can't access. Respecting your dreams means respecting your brain's full functioning. The future of sleep science looks promising. Researchers are developing better treatments for sleep disorders, understanding individual variations in sleep needs, and learning how to optimize sleep quality. We're recognizing sleep as the cornerstone of health it truly is. This cultural shift toward valuing sleep benefits everyone. Children and teenagers need even more sleep than adults. Their brains are still developing, requiring additional restoration time. Yet school schedules often ignore teenage circadian biology. Understanding that different ages have different sleep needs helps create appropriate expectations and schedules that work with biology rather than against it. Sleep in space presents unique challenges. Without gravity's cues and with Earth's day-night cycle disrupted, astronauts struggle to maintain healthy sleep. Dolphins and some other marine mammals sleep with one brain hemisphere at a time, keeping the other alert to breathe and watch for threats. Even when evolution demands creative solutions, sleep itself remains non-negotiable. Animals' sleep patterns reveal how crucial sleep is across all of life. Birds can sleep while flying during migration. Every species has evolved strategies to get the sleep they need, no matter how challenging their environment. Nature didn't make sleep optional for any creature. The deepest truth is this: sleep is how your brain loves you. Every night, while you're unconscious and vulnerable, your brain works tirelessly to repair, restore, and prepare you for tomorrow. It asks nothing in return but the time and conditions to do this work. Honoring your need for sleep is honoring yourself. It's recognizing that you're a biological being with real needs, not a machine that can run indefinitely. Rest isn't earned, it's required. Your worthiness of sleep isn't conditional on productivity or accomplishment. You deserve rest simply because you're alive. The permission to rest is always yours to give yourself. No one else can grant it. No external achievement makes you deserving of it. Your brain needs sleep simply because you exist, because you're breathing, because you're human. That's the only requirement that exists. So what happens to your brain when you stop sleeping? Everything we've explored tonight, the struggles, the compensations, the gradual breaking down of systems, but also, always, eventually, the possibility of recovery. Sleep always waits for you, patient and forgiving. Your brain is remarkable not just in what it can do, but in how it heals itself. Given sleep, it rebuilds. Given rest, it restores. This resilience, this capacity for renewal, is perhaps the most hopeful thing we can know. And in the end, the answer is simple. Your brain needs sleep like it needs oxygen. Not because it's weak, but because it's beautifully, wonderfully alive. And life, in all its complexity, requires rest. And so, our quiet journey through the science of sleeplessness comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the first accumulation of adenosine to the cascade of cognitive collapse, discovering along the way that your brain's need for sleep isn't a flaw. It's fundamental design. From the glymphatic system, washing away waste, to the memory consolidation that happens only in dreams, we've glimpsed how sleep is both maintenance and magic, both necessity and gift. The brain's need for sleep reminds us that we are not machines designed for constant productivity. We are living systems that require cycles, waking and sleeping, activity and rest, exertion and recovery. The wisdom of the body knows what the modern world often forgets. Rest is not earned, it's essential. Without sleep, everything suffers. With sleep, everything heals. In these final moments, take the deepest breath you can. Think about unity. Your body and brain working together. Your conscious mind and unconscious processes cooperating. Every neuron in your brain, every cell in your body, all seeking the same thing. Rest, recovery, restoration. You are not separate from this need. You are not fighting against your own biology. You are part of it, expression of it, home to it. Let your entire being dissolve into the ocean of consciousness, into dreamless rest, into the space before thought, into the gentle darkness where healing happens. No boundaries left, only peace, only surrender, only sleep. If this thoughtful exploration of the mind helped you understand why rest matters, brought you permission to sleep, or simply made you relax tonight, a gentle like and subscribe helps other sleepless souls discover this peaceful space too. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, through the science of what happens when sleep disappears. You can allow these thoughts to fade now, like morning mist dissolving in gentle sunlight, leaving only the quiet calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if gravity itself is pulling you softly downward, anchoring you to this safe place where you rest. If sleep comes, let it carry you like a warm current in a peaceful ocean, smoothly, inevitably, into a realm where time and worry no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, another video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your brain will still need sleep. The lymphatic system will still clear waste. Memories will still consolidate. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul. And remember, your brain needs sleep not because you're weak, but because you're beautifully, wonderfully alive. Fall asleep to gentle facts. Dream deeper with bedtime science. Relax, listen, and drift into sleep. Good night.